Oh, it's so cold, mate. That's why I'm wearing like the hoodie.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's time to sit in my Oodie once again. And please, like, dear Oodie, if you ever see this, please
Send
just
us free stuff.
send us some more free ones because my dogs keep using them as beds and I really don't have the heart to like rip them away from them anymore.
Not so actually, you've got like dogs who like the short fur. So if you get fur in them, it's those tiny little hairs like when you get a haircut.
Yeah, it's like they're constantly just being washed because like, yeah, there's just dog hairs all over them all the time. So, send us some more, please. That'd be great.
So here's the thing though, an Oodie, it's not what's the like the one that everyone knows, like that thing on the internet that went viral.
Oh, I don't know.
It's like the one that you wear, but I think it's you just told me it's a backwards dressing gown.
Oh, like the slanket, was it?
The slanket, yeah.
People used to use them.
And then the Oodie though, it's different because it's just a hoodie that goes all the way down to your knees, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So if any guys out there have seen your girlfriend or a girl just wearing like a boyfriend's hoodie and it's like goes down to her knees, that looks so comfy, the Oodie's for you. This isn't sponsored, but we'd like it to be. I want one.
I would love more.
I'll never forget when someone pointed out to like the slank. It's not a slank. There's a specific name for it.
There was I remember there was I think it was the slanket where it was like the blanket with sleeves.
Yeah, but then there was another name for it.
But yeah,
Snuggie. That was it. Snuggie.
Oh yes,
the Snuggie. I remember when Snuggie went super viral and everyone's getting one, and then it was you who pointed out it's just a dressing gown you wear backwards, and it's like it is, and they charge you like 50 quid for it. It's just a dressing gown, but you wear it the other way around. It's so stupid. Like, someone sold that. They just took something that already existed and sold you it back to front and made money to do that.
You know what? Fair play. That's a game and a half, that is.
That's business.
That is.
They noticed a gap in the market, and that gap was apparently this bit here. They needed covering.
That's the thing is, like, I'll happily shill, but, we're not sponsored at the moment.
I would be. That's the thing. Do you know they say, like, this isn't sponsored, but like, that's the thing marketing experts want. They want people to just unironically say this product is great without prompting or payment, because that you cannot ask for better marketing than that.
That's the thing we've got to do.
Earnestly saying it's a great product.
We've got to, like, instead of saying that it's great, I've got to, like, hold an Oodie, like, hostage and be like, I'm going to give this a shit review on the podcast if you don't sponsor us. We've got to figure this out, Carl.
There's just those like handful of products where it's just like you give it a good review without even thinking about it. It's like reminds me a little bit of Johnny Rotten, like, from what was it now? It was Sex Pistols, I think it was. He was in
think
like
so,
one of those punk bands.
One of them.
He was advertising butter, Lurpak.
Oh, okay.
And he got criticised for it. It's like, you're supposed to be punk rock, like you're the symbol of punk rock, and you're advertising fucking butter. And his response was, well, who doesn't have butter on the toast? Every punk I knew had fucking buttered toast. Also, it's a British product. What's the problem here?
Also, isn't
do you expect me to just not eat butter? Do punk rockers not eat butter?
Surely it's quite like a punk thing to be taking money away from big companies.
Yeah. Hey, Rage Against the Machine, Simon Universal.
But I know it's not actually punk. Don't come at me in the comments. But anyway, like, this is the Wiki Weekdays podcast. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Lucas Holland, and I am joined by the lovely Snoot and his pet, Karl Smallwood.
I'm loving that this is becoming like a permanent feature on my streams and videos now. Because it's such a satisfying shape for a stuffed animal. It's so perfectly stiff and aerodynamic. I love it.
So yeah, definitely, our favourite co-host of all three of us, Snoot. But Snoot doesn't have any wikis for us, but of course, Karl and I, as always, we do. And both Karl and I will be presenting a wiki entry for you. Mine might not be from a wiki this week, but it's an article online, and I'm making sure that works because it's our podcast and we can do what we want.
Do you know what? Yeah, 50 episodes in?
Well, like 30, I think.
There we go. We can start variations on the format.
We can indeed. But either way, regardless of whether it is a wiki or not, you need to let us know which wiki won this week. And that just means, let us know in the comments at the end of the podcast which article you think brought the most interesting discussion to the podcast. Yes.
Not necessarily a thing that is the thing you like the most, but which one do you think inspired the best discussion, was the funniest, or just, you personally found the most enjoyable?
Yes, and, you can find us on all podcast services, I believe, at this point. And, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see little Snoot over there with Karl.
That's the one.
And you get to see, my Wiglet Stitch combo in the background, just like...
Well, I've got a Wiglet as well.
Little The Wiglet.
Just behind the Snoot.
The Wiglet Warriors, as we are known.
That's the one, touching our Wiglets.
But Carl, let's crack on. What article have you got for us this week?
I've got a pretty basic one, but you know, Lucas, I love me some terrible television.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Well, this is what I love me some terrible TV. And I thought I'd bring in a British staple.
Okay.
And that's like, both literally and figuratively, because the things covered on the show are staples. And that show is Ready, Steady, Cook.
Oh, as in like cooking staples.
Yeah.
I was thinking like stapler staples. And I was
Nope.
like... But,
So do you remember Ready, Steady, Cook? Because I used to love watching Ready, Steady, Cook as a kid.
Ready, Steady, Cook. Was that the one that Ainsley Harriott did?
Yes, Ainsley Harriott.
Yes, yeah. I vaguely remember it.
And please tell me, unless you've got like your Wiki's got a more meme-worthy image for the thumbnail for this one, you've got to have the Ainsley Harriott smiling one. Because he's just such a happy, approachable-looking guy. And I found out Ainsley Harriott was in like a comedic music group called the Calypso Twins.
Oh.
Where it's just like Caribbean music where they both just like shake maracas and dance. And then he parlayed that into being a celebrity chef.
That's how he got his fame?
That's how he got his fame. Yeah, he was
Wow.
part of a comedy dance group called the Calypso Twins, and that's like when you find out that Gordon Ramsay was a footballer. Like Gordon Ramsay was a professional footballer before he became a chef. You're like, wait, what?
I knew he liked football. I didn't realise he actually got paid to play football at any point.
He had a trial with like some Scottish Premier League team, and then he injured his knee and had to go to culinary college instead.
That's the
how he
thing.
became a chef.
It's
What a journey.
It's one of those of like, it sounds way more impressive than what it actually is when most Scottish League teams are like, maybe we'll say like a rung below what is considered top tier, but obviously there's Celtic and Rangers, but yeah, I don't come after me, Scottish football fans.
No, it's less thing. Scotland has a great footballing pedigree, just maybe not in the same vein as the UK. England, the rest of the UK, I should say, like England, but that's because like the English clubs are owned by fucking multi-billionaires from foreign countries who just buy all the best players in the world.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like a lot of the big Premier League teams have become like these massive teams because, yeah, someone's just come in like a fucking oil baron and just bought a bunch of people for them.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Ready, Steady, Cook. If anyone out there doesn't know what Ready, Steady, Cook is, Ready, Steady, Cook is a BBC daytime TV cooking game show. It debuted in October of 1994 and airing all the way till 2010 before being rebooted with a new host. And the programme was originally hosted by Fern Britton till the 2000s. When celebrity chef Ainsley Harriott became the new host in 2000. And that's the thing as well. I just associate the show with him, and he wasn't even the original host.
Yeah, and I would have thought that if it's like 2000 that he started, I would have at least like remembered seeing some episodes in the 90s when he wasn't presenting, but...
Yeah, you remember seeing it with like the other lady, but no, just he's so synonymous with that show. When Harriott took over, the duration of the programme was extended from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So, and the basic format, do you remember the basic format, Lucas?
Isn't it just like two amateur chefs compete like in kitchens to make better meals?
It's not amateur chefs, no. So the format of the show is two members of the public are provided with a budget which has increased over the years to like reflect like inflation, and they give them to two celebrity chefs, and the celebrity chefs have to create the most interesting meal they can with that like bag of groceries, and the member of the public who comes in will help them. But the celebrity chef will, basically coach them through it. It says essential ingredients such as staples, bread, milk, eggs, etc., and herbs and spices, oils, butter, that sort of thing are provided by the show. The problem is, though, is that it's one of those things where when you look at it and you go, well, okay, yeah, they paid £5, they brought some chicken and a bag of peppers in. But if you look at all the, to have a fully stocked kitchen to actually, make the dishes as shown on the show would cost a fortune.
Yeah, you look at all of like the extra herbs and spices and just all of the staples that you would get, like all your onions and etc. Like all of that starts to quickly add up.
And that's one of the things I thought we could talk about this today, because cooking shows are like, I don't cook very much. I can cook. I have the ability to. I took a couple of cooking classes. I throughout the pandemic, watched all the videos. When I first went to university, I think I told the story of I had to learn how to boil an egg. because everything I ate was tinned food. So I do know how to cook. I just don't have the inclination to. So while I can cook, I don't want to spend the time cooking a meal, especially considering I've lived on my own for like the majority of my adult life. So I rarely have. I prefer very simple, wholesome food. So I never really have the desire to cook anything fancier, even though I could, because I would much rather have like a simpler, more wholesome meal.
And that's the funny thing is I always joke that like if it weren't for the fact that I lived with my partner, like she inspires me to like cook because like I want to make something nice for her. But if it was just me living on my own, I'd be like full gremlin mode, just like you saw me when I used to live on my own, Carl, and I just like literally just ate like straight out of just a cereal box, just like dry shreddies were my staple food.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, the thing is, I have a varied diet. So I have lots of fruit, lots of vegetables. I have a protein shake every morning. I'll have like stir fry and stuff a lot. So like lots of like good, healthy vegetables cooked in a very light way. It's just that, like when I have a stir fry, it's like the entire bag of stir fry in the bag, and then that's it. And then it's a little bit of oil on top. And that for me, that's fine. That's a meal. But other people about, where's like, your protein? It's like, well, I've had a protein shake and some yogurt. That's my protein.
Yeah, it's one of those I wasn't implying that you lived in gremlin mode or anything. But
that's the thing. I look like I do because it's like the joke is I always have beans. But beans, like, it's a comfort food for me because when I was a little kid, that'd be like the treat we'd get. Of like, and you're looking back and it's like, it wasn't a treat. It's that my parents couldn't afford any better. But the fact they did that parent thing of like, dressing it up a little bit so you feel like it's like, ooh, you can grate a little bit of cheese on your beans on toast tonight. And it's like, yeah, it feels like a treat, even though it's like, well, it's a little bit of cheese and 50p worth of beans on 2 slices of bread. That's not really a meal, but it was a meal to me, damn it.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like, because my mum always used to just do sprouts, like she used to boil them in a lot of sugar so that it would take out like the bitterness.
Don't know how to cook, do they?
No, like it was nice, like in a nice way, and it made me view sprouts as like the treat vegetable.
Oh, because
it was just like, because she not cooked it, she boiled it in like sugary water. It tasted sweet instead of bitter, and I always associated that with like the roast dinner, and like every time like sprouts came out, it was like, oh yeah, sprouts, and it's like, but you look at it, it's fucking sprouts. They're not exactly exciting, but because
they are nice.
The way they were cooked and the way that my mum presented them as like the treat, like we got a bit excited for them.
And it's something I've talked about in the past, and it's something I'm very, very like passionate about. Is I hate the stereotype of British food being bad. Because British food is simple, because we're an island nation and we have access to all the staples. And if you go look at something like, like steak and kidney pie, that's a really good, wholesome food. And like a good pie, a good chicken dinner. Like, even just something as simple as like mashed potatoes, like good mashed potatoes with like plenty of butter and salt is really good, or bread and cheese.
Yeah,
like we have like really nice crusty bread with like a really nice strong Stilton or something like that, dipped into like also like some fresh like butter. That really fancy butter you get from Marks and Spencer's at Christmas, and you just put a little bit of it on some like crusty bread straight out of the oven, and it's perfect.
I think a lot of people get confused because like they can be very simple meals, and if you cook them in the traditional way, but it's hard to like have many cuisines that I can think of that are as comforting as British meals can be if they're done well.
It's all starch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's starchy, warm, like cozy food, but a lot of it is not, as fancy or impressive as, say, like Italian dishes or like French cuisine or whatever.
Italian dishes are really simple. Pasta and oil.
But they seem fancier a lot of the time, and often presented a lot fancier as well.
Yeah, because that's the thing I say, like, because if you ask most countries, like people from the country, they'll say, like, obviously there's the fancy dishes, but most people, like, when you ask them, like, what's the thing you'd want to, like, the hearty dish that you'd want as comfort food, for, like, Italians, it'd be pasta. For, like, for French, it'd just be, like, some brie or something like that, something very simple. And it's like, well, how's that any different from, like, bread and butter?
That's the thing is,
I think people make joke about that. Have they ever had really good bread and butter?
Mm-hmm. Like, I know there's a big difference, don't come at me, but, like, in terms of like, oh, well, it's a comforting, messy food. Think of like lasagna compared to like a British equivalent, maybe like, I don't know.
Pie.
I was going to say like a cottage pie or a shepherd's pie or something like. They're both, stacked meals that you whack in the oven and cause a big mess. Like, they're not fancy foods, but they're very comforting.
Yeah, and the specific thing that I get really frustrated by is, like, you'll see it all the time online. And you'll be like, Britain conquered the planet for spices, and they never use spices in their food. And it's like, people do. But the dishes they always sing like beans on toast or liver and onions. Well, they're dishes that are made by poor people. Like, I grew up on a council estate, like beans on toast. My set, do you know why we had beans on toast? We didn't have something fancier. We couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. I remember because my ex was American, and she couldn't believe this. She was talking about, well, spices are so cheap. Like, she says, like, Indian families and stuff can afford spice. Yeah, because they live in India, where they have spices. And like when you have like the local areas in the UK, we have like Bangladeshi families or West Indian families. Normally they have shops that sell those spices. But my mum didn't know what the fuck any of these spices were. And I showed her, I went on to like Sainsbury's on the website. And look, one jar, 100 grams of paprika. So you say like put paprika in your eggs. Okay, so 1 jar of paprika, £1.50. For that, you can get 2 tins of beans, a loaf of bread, and the Sainsbury's basic like vegetable spread, which is meals, not good meals, but meals for like, if you've got 2-3 kids at home, that's meals for 3 or 4 days for less than it costs for 1 pack of spices. And it's like, it's not that we choose to eat like that; it's that we have no choice.
Yeah, and obviously that's like.
But that's why it pisses me off, because it's classism. So you're basically making fun of poor people for not being able to eat good food. It's like, and when I did the same, like, well, it's like me saying, oh, a grilled cheese sandwich is shit. Why the fuck are they eating that wank? It's like, well, no, a grilled cheese sandwich is really important. A lot of people, it's the only thing, it's comfort food. So exactly. It's all you had and you made the best of it.
Yeah, like, people aren't sitting here in Britain eating, like, beans on toast as a nice, fancy meal every day. Like, it's not the top of our cuisine or anything. It's just a really cheap, basic thing that was easy to make.
It's a basic staple. It's like a jam sandwich. And it's like, say, if you said to an American who'd make you fun of British food, like, well, peanut butter jelly sandwiches are shit. They go, no, they're really... I remember having them as a kid, when we couldn't afford anything else. Exactly!
I think that's well... sorry, go ahead.
And the fun thing is as well, do you know the reason why British food is so bland? This is a real thing. So initially, in history, like when Britain first started, raiding the corners of the earth to get spices and sugar and stuff, sugar and spice became a symbol of being rich. Because you can afford to put sugar in your dishes. Because sugar, and that's why, things like pineapples were seen as a sign of wealth, because it's a very sweet fruit that costs an exorbitant amount of money to obtain. When, shipping and stuff became a lot more commercialized, and the average person on the street could gain access to things like spices, salt, sugar, more exotic fruits, rich people intentionally started eating more basic foods and their justification was, well, it requires a more refined palate to actually, and that's why things like goose liver pate and stuff like that, these very basic ingredients, or cucumber sandwiches. You might think, well, that's boring. It's just it's water on bread. But rich people ate it, and they convinced themselves that no, only the refined palate can truly taste this stuff. And obviously because throughout history, the way rich people do things tends to then the middle class people try and keep up the Joneses, and then it goes down to people on the base, in the working class. And that's how bland food became so associated with Britain, because it was our upper classes got annoyed that poor people could afford to eat like them, and just started intentionally eating shit food and saying, no, you just don't get it.
Truly cutting your nose off to spite your face with that one.
Exactly, yes. But, bring it back. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, as well, I just think a lot of British people, for a long time, myself included, are not very good cooks, because we don't traditionally get taught cooking in school or anything like that.
That's why I had to teach myself, yeah. And I've worked in a 5-star kitchen for a while.
A lot of examples are just, people haven't been taught to cook. So when you're straight out of, you go out of your parents' house at the age of now, probably, you start your adult life at 30 nowadays and finally move
35, out. You finally managed to move out, yeah.
And it's you haven't been, most people haven't been taught to cook at that point. And
I literally had to teach myself to boil an egg.
Either you learn, you get some cookbooks or like things like that. Like, again, not sponsored, but like getting HelloFresh helped me out because it opened up like meals that I never knew how to cook, like curries and stuff, like taught me how to make those things.
Yeah, it's like when I kept making pasta when I was younger. It's like, why does my pasta never taste good? It never tastes like it does. And I realised, it's because I'm just boiling pasta for like 30 minutes and then putting sauce on it and then just eating it. I didn't realise, no, you boil the sauce a little bit and you add some spices, some herbs, a little bit of oil in there. And then once you've had your pasta, make sure you salt your water, always salt your water. Make sure it's al dente. You want that little bit of crunch in it because you want the rest to cook off in the pasta sauce. You drain off your pasta sauce and you don't smother it in pasta sauce. You put a little bit in so it absorbs the flavour. You toss it through the pan with that and then you put some herbs on top. Maybe serve it on the side, like with some garlic bread or something like that. And that takes effort, and that's obviously a skill you have to learn.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a lot of people may not be that invested in learning how to cook, even though maybe you could argue they should be, but it's just a lot of the time people just kind of go, well, I don't know how to cook. I'll just continue cooking my basic food that I know how to do.
And that's why shows like Ready, Steady, Cook, I think, are like fun. Because they teach the basic premise is we're going to teach you how to make dishes. Like the idea is, it's like, okay, this is what's in your fridge. Here's a professional chef making something with it, and we didn't even get finished with the format. So the two teams designated as red tomato and green pepper, referred to as the red kitchen and the green kitchen after 2007, though the tomato and pepper motifs were kept. Occasionally, though, the permitted budget was increased. A so-called bistro bag for ingredients up to £7.50, while the gourmet bag could have a value of up to £10. On some occasions, they have used a £3.50 budget bag. And also they've had the Lucky Dip bag, which contains 10 random items. And it's worth noting as well that because this was a BBC-produced show, and the BBC is funded by taxpayer money, there was no sponsorship. So when you watch like other cooking shows, like stuff like Gordon Ramsay has a lot of cooking shows, all those ingredients generally are provided by sponsors. And if you wait till the end of the show, you'll see a little thing of like, considerations from this company for providing the ingredients. And I remember I was watching like an American, I think it was a MasterChef season, where they were like, and here we have the budget bag to teach it how to cook, provided by Walmart. And you're like, and they say, here's a steak from Walmart. And you go, no steak from Walmart looks like that. And it's ostensibly advertising for Walmart, whereas the BBC one, because they can't take advertising money, you'll have people bring in just their favourite brands. Like people want to bring in like a fucking like box of shreddies or something like that, or like a tin of Heinz beans. That's what they brought in.
Like, do you remember or know? Did they like do the classic thing of like covering up all the brands so you don't know? No, okay.
Do you remember they had something similar with the show EastEnders? Because EastEnders is a soap of the UK again on the BBC, and they had a few complaints because they said, well, when you watch a show and you can clearly tell it's been sponsored, of like, that company paid to have that here. And for example, like, characters are using certain phones, and like, you go into people's houses and they'll have like, branded cereal on their shelves, or like cereal from like, own brands from shops. And there were complaints like, well, that's advertising. It's like, it's not, it's real life. People buy brands in real life. Like, we're not being paid by these brands.
It's just representative.
But yeah, like we feel like this character would have this brand of stuff on their shelves. They have to go to the shops. They have to eat to make the world feel lived in and believable. And it feels more it would be less believable if they had no branding. And
even even if they were living on the basics, like even
like
if
hand to mouth,
went to like Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury's, whatever, and get their own like Asda Basics brand or whatever they're called, like. That's still promoting the supermarket, and that's still branding for the supermarket.
And those basics as well, they got me through university. I've told the story before, haven't I? My friend who did not get his student loan. And this is really fun. Yeah. This is a true story. He didn't know what a guarantor was, because he'd never been taught. So he didn't know what a guarantor. So when they asked him on his sheet for when he was signing up to like housing, who was your guarantor? He wrote his own name. So he didn't know. And then when like he didn't get his student loan, and he went and they said, we're going to have to go to your guarantor to get your money. Because people know what a guarantor is. When you sign for something, it's like, okay, if you can't pay for this thing, we'll go after them. And they have to agree to it. And they just filed his paperwork, not realising he was his own guarantor. So when he couldn't pay his rent, they chased him down for his rent. And to avoid any embarrassment, the student loans people were just like, although to avoid any embarrassment, the student housing people were just like, just pay us when you can. And that friend, for 6 months, when he had zero money, every week just bought a tray, you go into like, Tesco, get their own brand mushy peas and get a tray of those and have that with their own brand like potato croquettes and just any potato thing he could get that was on special. And then the cheapest like protein he could afford, like fish fingers, chicken fingers, anything like that, and just lived on that for 6 months because it's all he could afford.
Yeah,
that got him through. Same thing, I'm sure everyone out there who's in a student, like, basic ramen. And as you get older, you realise you put bits of vegetables in that ramen, maybe some stock. You buy yourself, when you buy that first bottle of sriracha and you put sriracha on fucking everything.
Yeah, I remember, like, for a good portion of my, like, one of the years of uni where I didn't, like, my first year didn't get a grant or anything, like, I was on, like, the basic lowest amount you could get.
The breadline, yeah.
My parents went to Costco and got me, like, a big, like, 5 kilos of rice or what. Mustn't have been 5 kilos, must have been, like, 15
25
kilos or something. It was huge.
One of those bags that you see, like, them taking into takeaways and stuff.
Like, even, like, potentially bigger, yeah. And
the size of a bag of dog food.
So many of my meals were just, like, literally boiled plain rice because I had no money. I had literally no money.
And that's why I say it's something I'm very passionate about. When I see people mocking British food, do you know what you can mock? Go mock goose liver pate.
Yeah.
One, because it fucking sucks. I've had it. It's terrible. Because like I said, I used to work in a 5-star restaurant. I've tried every fancy food there is. I've had caviar. I've had goose liver pate. I've had like veal. I've had venison and stuff. And for the most part, most rich people food is fucking shit. They eat the garbage parts of the animal.
Caviar is just disgracefully bad.
I'd rather eat the fish. I'd rather have the fish. And here's the secret for someone who works in one of these restaurants. Do you know why everything in a posh restaurant tastes nice? Butter. Every single dish, every single one was cooked in butter. Every single one. Butter and salt. And when I thought about it, I was like, well, why do I need to go to a restaurant and pay 30, 40 quid, for a cut of meat, when all you need to do, apparently, is just put a knob of butter in a pan and leave it in the pan for 5 minutes and it tastes amazing.
I mean, that's the thing, right, is the secret to most good tasting food is salt
sugar,
and fat.
Sugar, fat and salt.
Yeah.
It's why cheesecake is the best. It's like my biggest, the thing I'm always like hankering for is cheesecake. Because cheesecake is they've done studies on this. It is the optimum blend of sugar and fat. Because if you eat too much sugar, you feel sick.
Right.
If you eat too much fat, you feel pogged. They apparently balance each other out. So a blend of both means you can eat them an almost infinite amount until you throw up. And cheesecake is noted as being like the perfect blend of sugar and fat, which is why you can just smash so much cheesecake. Like cheesecake is one of those things that people can just eat near indefinitely without ever feeling sick. Because like the fat and the sugar content balance each other out.
I do like a good cheesecake, but I die on the hill that like they never make the biscuit base thick enough.
Yeah, the thing is though, like every Christmas for the past couple of years, I just go to the shop and we buy all the fat. Like when I live with my ex, we just buy all the unhealthy stuff and say fuck it, and I buy myself an entire cheesecake. I remember eating an entire cheesecake and then eating mac and cheese, and I was like, "This is it. This is what it's like to be American." The cheese.
So tell me about red tomato and green pepper.
I will. So the main course. So the chefs had to make several dishes out of said ingredients in around 20 minutes, with the help of the contestants and the programme's host. As the contestants taste and prepare the food, the host asks the chefs some questions about their dish. As prior to September 2006, it was customary for the chefs to name their creations, which usually included a pun. And that was part of the thing as well. It's a very entertaining show because Ainsley Harriott is a very, very amiable person. He's a very good personality. And one of the things that I liked about the show is because you really get to know people through food. Like, food's one of those few things that you really get to know someone based on the food they pick. And I'll never forget the legendary episode where a guy comes in and only brought potatoes. and apparently there's an interview with him somewhere where he did it as a piss take, where he found out he got on the show and his mates bet him to just take in potato to see what happened. So he just went to the shop with his budget and just bought a tenner's worth of potatoes.
Oh my
and
God.
Took them all. And the thing is though, the chef did a really good job. The chef made a really good spread of potato, and they talked about how people don't know potato is one of the most versatile foods. It's also really good for you. People think when they think potato, they think chips or fries to Americans, or crisps, which would be chips to Americans. Like, potatoes are so versatile and so good for you. Like, they are one of the few foods on earth. Like, I did an article on it a few years ago. Potatoes are one that, if you ate nothing but potatoes and took a multivitamin, you could live indefinitely off that. Because they're so nutritionally balanced.
I mean, what do they say, Carl? Boil them, mash them, put them in a stew.
Yep. Yeah, but I remember that guy who just took in nothing but potatoes.
That's
you have some people,
incredible.
It's so good. And then some people come in and they'll just like, they'll go to a shop and they're like, okay, I've got like, bar of chocolate. Like, they'll just go shopping as if they're getting treats. Like, it's got a bar of chocolate, pint of milk, all that stuff. It's great. It's a really fun show for that. And it's one of those things like to see what the chefs do with it.
Yeah, because it's always one of those interesting things where, like, yeah, you could be a very normal person and be like, tell you what, I've bought, like, chicken, pasta, tomatoes, and sauce. Like, make some pasta. And they can make some pasta because they're a celebrity chef, but, like, bringing in, like, yeah, I bought you a bag of sweets and a bar of chocolate. Like, what are you going to do now?
And one of the things I like as well is the chefs, for the most part, will try and mix things up a bit. So if someone brought something in of a chicken, because obviously they did an episode every day of the week. You can't make another chicken dinner. They have to do something fun and interesting with it. I always found that interesting of like, just to show people at home, like if you've got a chicken and some pasta in, here's a dish maybe you didn't know you can make. Here's a different way to cook it, for example, rather than go for the simple one. And here's the fun thing I like here. The preparations were voted on by the studio audiences who held up a card showing a red tomato or a green pepper. And I like that. They just held up the card, like proper Roman Colosseum style.
I forgot about that.
And this is why I love British game shows as well. And I hate the Americanization of our game shows, of like focusing on like big prizes and stories. Whereas I think the ultimate British game shows are Ready, Steady, Cook and Countdown. Because what's the prize on Countdown, Lucas, if you win Countdown?
I think it is literally just a countdown teapot, right?
Teapot is what you get if you win, and if you win overall, you get a set of dictionaries.
Oh, okay.
And admittedly, a full set of dictionaries costs about $3,000.
But I can get them for free on my phone nowadays, whereas like 30 years ago, that might have been a way more impressive prize.
Yeah, and it's like the teapot is what you win. It's the experience of taking part in the show, and similarly with Ready, Steady, Cook, the winner received a cash prize of £100. It's like this thing: you come on TV, you have a fun day out, we give you £100. We pay for your trip here, put you up in a hotel. You get to be on TV, say hi to your wife and kids. You get £100 on your way. And then I hate the Americanization of like, you've got to win £1 million, and we've got like everyone's got to have a sob story. Why can't he just be like Jeff, like from like Leeds, who's like signed up for a laugh?
Yeah, think about the like lengths and depths that people go to in Come Dine With Me to compete for like £1,000, and it's £1,000 is not nothing. It's nothing to like
sniff at. Yeah, we talked about it, didn't we? Yeah.
But nowadays, £1,000 doesn't realistically. It's not going to get you like a fucking house or anything. It's going to like maybe pay for like a bit of a vacation or something like that. But it's the
taking part, isn't it? And I hate American shows. Yeah. So I don't like American shows like this. It's like MasterChef, where it's like, what's the grand prize? £1 million. And then obviously that just makes people act like arseholes if they want to win £1 million. Whereas like shows like Ready, Steady, Cook, it's just, well, you're here for fun.
Yeah.
And it's the thing of like, the more seriously someone takes it and the smaller the prize is, the more of a dick you seem for taking it seriously. That's what we talked about with Come Dine With Me, of like, okay, yeah, it's £1,000. That's a life-changing amount of money to a lot of people, but not the kind of people taking part in the show. Mm-hmm. They are all very comfortably middle class. And the fact they give such a huge shit is what makes it funny.
Yeah, it's like a lot of them, like, a lot of the people on Come Dine With Me have houses, which, if you're at the point where you have a house, like £1,000, again, not a life-changing amount of money, but you see people, like, as I say, just get fully deprived, just competing for, like, more for the bragging rights than anything.
Yeah, it's like, I won Ready, Steady, Cook. And like I said, you get a mug and all that stuff. But there we go. So the Quickie Bag section of the show would then follow and was introduced in 2000, the year Ainsley Harriott became a presenter, having previously been one of the celebrity chefs on the programme. And I think that's why you don't remember Fern Britton, because he was such a good personality as a celebrity chef. He probably just overshadowed her tenure.
Right, yeah.
The contents of the Quickie Bag were decided on by a series producer and a home economist. Their decisions were based on produce that was currently in season, so things people might have in their cupboards or fridges at home, or unusual ingredients that have not been featured on the show recently. So something that, an ingredient that people might be familiar with but don't necessarily know how to cook, or just one that's not been on the show recently to just freshen up the format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that is the thing, is 9 times out of 10, if you just ask people to go do a shop for a tenner, if you tell them to just go get a food shop for a tenner, most people come back with the same kind of basic stuff of chicken, pasta, veg.
Yeah. And that's why they tell them, we've got the staples, we've got pasta, bread, all that stuff. Go just get a few ingredients that you like to cook. And then we say here for the quickie bag, the chefs will then have to describe what they will cook using the ingredients, and audience members would vote on which they'd like to see. The winner then had 10 minutes to complete the dishes with the help of the other chef and Harriet. The hectic preparation of the chosen chef's suggestion often include a slight element of chaos and ad-libbing, because obviously they're running around, they've got 10 minutes to do it. A viewer question relating to a cooking problem is usually put to the chefs to further add to the pressure. So they say, imagine your oven doesn't work. How would you cook this?
Oh my God.
So you have the chef be like, okay, so you put... And that's the thing, your oven at home might not work.
Yeah.
So how would you cook this thing? You say, okay, you put it in a pan, put the lid over the top of the pan, create basically a basic pressure cooker sort of thing. Just one of those things and they'd have to remember the honest. What's the problem you've had in the kitchen? Dull knives. Okay, you've got dull knives. How do you cook something with a dull knife? And they'll say, you can use scissors, to cook bacon, for example.
I still remember not long ago when I pulled out a set of scissors to cut my pizza.
And someone watched
friend,
it was their mind was blown.
My friend was staring at me, looking really confused, and then came into the room with their own pizza a minute later. Why have I never thought to cut my pizza with scissors? It was so easy.
I love those little things where people look at you like an idiot, and then they see how easy it is and go, "Why have I never done it like this way?"
And I only learned from seeing a friend and having the same reaction.
Yeah, just getting scissors to cut the pizza.
How many times have you had that pizza cutter that's just
pizza
so
cutters
dull?
are so shit. They're not designed to cut pizza. I don't care what anyone says.
It's so many of the ones you just get from the supermarket are just dull as fuck and literally just don't cut through the crust properly.
So I remember just seeing my chef when I was working in that fancy kitchen. And he was cutting chicken. He just had a big pair of fucking gardening shears. Obviously clean and brand new, and they were clean every day. We were just getting the chicken straight into the pan.
Yeah.
Just instant. Same with vegetables. Just so good. But we've got some variations on the format to end on, Luke. So the classic format, the classic bag, the original format where they brought a bag of ingredients costing £5. Imagine that today. So you've got one bag of Doritos and a vape. There's the budget bag, which had ingredients that cost up to £3.50, so not even a meal deal.
Get Freddo for that.
The bistro bag was $7.50. The gourmet bag was £10. The doubling up bag. So both contestants bring in the same ingredients. The host then used a coin or die with a green pepper or red tomato on it to decide which chef would decide what to do with the ingredients first. The other chef had to do something different, which I thought was a fun concept. So same ingredients, two chefs, different meals.
I thought you were going to say one chef picks which meal and they both have to make the better version. Mm-hmm. But that's even more interesting. Is no, that's what they get to block out one meal. The obvious answer has been taken. What else do you do now?
But then it shows off the versatility of food and the ingredients. We have gamble bag where the chefs are presented with 3 mystery ingredients and are given the opportunity to swap one ingredient for a mystery ingredient. They do not have to swap. If they do, they cannot change their mind.
I like that they introduce the Monty Hall problem to the fucking Ready Steady Cook.
Yeah, and then lucky dip. The chefs were presented with a bag of 10 items from which they had to pick 5 at random. After 10 minutes had passed, they then chose a 6th ingredient, which depending on what the chef had started cooking can help or hinder them. So they could fuck each other up by giving them a bad ingredient they have to incorporate.
Yeah, that's one thing I always like is I can't remember which cooking show it was on Netflix.
There's a lot of cooking shows, and I've watched probably all of them.
There's a lot, but there's probably multiple that do this, but where they're look, you have to make some food in this theme, but you have to pick one of these shit ingredients or traditionally not used ingredients and incorporate that into your dish or whatever. And it's a bunch of sweets or something like that, or food that you wouldn't think to put in that kind of meal. And it always just makes things a lot more interesting.
It's why I liked Iron Chef as well. Like, Iron Chef's one of my favourite ones. You know, like that really excitable Japanese dude where it's like, okay, and what's the secret ingredient? And he just does like beer! And you've got to make it with beer. It's great. And I watched that and I'm just sat there eating my ramen. And I'm like, yeah, this is it. That's the thing, I love cooking shows, but I don't like cooking. Because all I do is when I look at it, go, this looks like way too much effort. It's way too much effort for what they get out of it.
That's what I mean when I'm like, I like cooking, and I like cooking for other people, but when I'm just thinking about myself, I'm like, well, it's way easier to just like
I need sustenance.
Make myself some instant ramen or something. I like, again, I'd be full gremlin mode.
The thing that absolutely just changed my life is when I started working out properly, and I realised literally the only thing that matters is, do you have enough? It's calories in, calories out, and then these three basic things like protein, your vitamins, and your minerals. Though everything else is completely interchangeable, as evidenced by the fact you've had people who've got like lost weight on like ice cream diets and McDonald's diets and all that good stuff. So the only thing that matters is calories in, calories out. Are you getting the vitamins and minerals you need to live, and some protein to your muscles to function, which can come from any source.
Yeah, and like
then in which case, fucking have at it.
Like if literally all you give a shit about is losing weight and not having those things, like, yeah, as you say, it doesn't matter what kind of food you're having. If calories exceed calories in, then you lose weight. That's how losing weight works.
Yep. And then same thing, like as long as you have like, you don't have to necessarily have a balanced diet, just a diet that contains a balanced variety of things, which is why they generally recommend a balanced diet, because it's a lot easier to have like the daily recommended amount of like minerals, vitamins, and like, you know, get a good protein intake if you have a varied diet, and then opposed to if you just eat like, you know, just bread all day.
Yeah.
But hell goddamn yeah. I love cooking shows.
I adore cooking shows and baking shows. Like,
I don't like baking shows. I don't eat sweets anymore, and it does make me hungry. So I can't have sugar. Fair. That's why I treat myself to one cheesecake a year and just eat it all in one go.
No, I adore both, but like I do really enjoy it when they try to mix things up and make things interesting, because like you know, it's not a cooking show, but like there's only so much drama I can take from like a come dine with me before I turn off. But like when it's like an actual game show and they're like, oh well, you know, make an interesting dish with these weird or wacky ingredients, I'm like, oh no, now I'm invested. Like a MasterChef one, I'm less so into that MasterChef, because that's just like make nice meals. I'm like, I want a bit of jazz and variation.
I also love as well like cooking shows and nature documentary shows are like the justification, all the justification I need for buying my TV. So I've got like a 4K TV, and I just remember once where just like, oh, Netflix has like a 4K documentary on fucking mushrooms, and I'm like, let's go. And it's just 4K footage of mushrooms, and I'm like, this is it.
And then this is the future. Like, shitty quality. It's like, goddamn it. Like that's the one problem I have with like.
Yeah, you can stream in 4K, stuff. But good luck.
It's like you can stream it in 4K on like gig internet that we have for, you know, streaming and stuff, but like even if it is like 4K, it's not true good 4K quality.
Yeah,
like,
I don't care that much about it, but it's one of those things like just there's something very visually, aesthetically pleasing about really nice looking food being cooked in high quality, like in high definition. Just like Joe and like just the shot of like a stir fry in a pan being like, or like, you know, cutting peppers. I guess it's almost like ASMR-esque of like people cutting peppers and stuff like that.
I mean, it's
just high quality ingredients being made really well.
Most of the time, it's why my TikTok feed is pretty much just food, because like, you know, the people who actually make the videos well and like have all these nice shots and stuff.
That's the thing; they never talk as well. I never want anyone making food to talk to me unless it's Gordon Ramsay. I watch more like instructional ones, so like well shot instructional cooking stuff on TikTok. Like that's mostly what I watch. But yeah, it's like it's just satisfying to watch people make food if it's like shot nicely and stuff. Oh, if you like, I say, go watch Gordon Ramsay's where it's shot like the guy's got ADHD. Yeah. Like they do a cut every 4 seconds when they do the Gordon Ramsay one, and it's weirdly compelling. Because like they film he films in his own house clearly, but they're filmed in such a weird way of like he doesn't seem like he can sit still. Like Gordon Ramsay films these instructional videos like he needs a piss and he wants to do it in 10 minutes. It's great.
I mean, that sounds like Gordon Ramsay cooking.
It does, yes. But Lucas, what have you brought for us?
Well, I need to go get more drink, so we'll
Okay.
find out after the break. But I will say to people who, want to come back in all of like 10 seconds, it is also to do with British food.
Oh,
So we've got a British food episode today.
I guess so. I didn't realise that. That was not planned at all. I'll go grab myself a coffee and I'll join you in a sec.
When we were talking earlier of like not having food, I just went to pour myself some squash and was like, I'm out of squash now. I need to go to the shop. Like, dear God.
No. 'Cause that's the thing for me as well, because I need to go to the shop and get some chicken in. Speaking of protein, I've got all the, do you know when you have all the basics in of like, because I want to make myself some wraps tonight because I'm going to the gym. So I want some chicken, something light. So I'll get some wraps. But I've got all the salad in. I've got all like, the seasonings and I've got all that stuff. But I just need chicken. It's like, God damn it, I've not got chicken.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things of like, it's always so frustrating. But yeah, I figured, before we go into my wiki, we could just talk about whatever we need to plug this week. And I guess I'll start with saying that on Mondays, we are now doing Mass Effect Mondays over on my Twitch yet again.
It returns, yes.
We have played through Mass Effect already, and that means we are playing the good one now, Mass Effect 2, which, obviously some people prefer Mass Effect. For me, it's always been Mass Effect 2 is the one.
Mass Effect 2 is the one that everyone remembers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Mass Effect 2 is probably the one where the format, style, and tone of the series was like crystallized and just became the most memorable. And then it's the pinnacle of a series for sure, yes.
Yeah, for most people, and like 3 in Andromeda went like, the wrong directions. But we haven't got to them yet. We're playing 2, the good one. So if you would like to join us over there, be on my Twitch, Legend of Kanto, and we'll be streaming about like 10 o'clock every Monday, going through that for a couple of hours each week. And that's, of course, like 10 p.m. UK time. So hopefully, like, I tried to make it a bit later so that Americans can hopefully squeeze in as well. But I'm aware there's a time difference that we can't necessarily get over. But yeah, we will be streaming through all of the game eventually. And yeah, I'm just excited to get to Mass Effect 2 and have Mass Effect Mondays back.
I just want that line of like, Shepard, you're dead. I got better. Bear, 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 bear. It's the best one. Like, hey, you died. I got better. And just blam, blam, like the renegade option, just shoot them.
And Carl, anything to plug on your end?
I'll plug that as well. That sounds good.
Hell yeah.
I love Mass Effect.
Let's get into my wiki then, Carl, which is, as I said, not a wiki. It is the first thing that came up as an article when I searched for the best British biscuits.
Okay, so we've done this before, haven't we? We've reviewed biscuits before, yeah.
We've reviewed biscuits, but I wanted to see, like, I wanted to get violent today, and I wanted to actually come up with, like, our ranking of biscuits, because, like, it's, as I say, it's getting colder, and, like, I'm starting to, be drinking more hot drinks, and of course, with those hot drinks, you need a couple of bickies to just dunk in. You need a biscuit,
yeah.
And, I just, like, it's obviously something that many people in Britain are very passionate about, is, like, what are the best biscuits. So I think that, like, I've got up this thing of, like, the top 13 British biscuits from biscuitpeople.com.
The thing is, though, you could just go onto, like, Wikipedia and look up, like, I'm sure there's, like, a wiki on British biscuits, right? And we could just go through that and rank them, surely.
Well, yeah, the biscuit. I just figured, like, this probably gives us a good starting point for what is considered, like, the best. And I think, like, just let's make, like, a top 5 British biscuits between us.
Okay, I'm seeing there's, like, an article on biscuits, but there's not, like, a...
But that's the thing is, like, there didn't seem to be, like, just a list of all British biscuits, and then...
Oh, there is.
Oh, okay, there is, but that... At the same time,
every biscuit ever made.
Every biscuit. That would be every biscuit, and it's so hard to narrow down because there's so many of them. So I figured, like, try to get a list of, like, the top ones so that we have, like, a good jumping off point.
Okay.
And I already contend, because it has here, like, the top 5 favourite British biscuits.
Well, number one's easy. It's always the same. If the number one's not the one that I'm going to say in, like, a second when you ask me to, then this article is objectively wrong.
The chocolate digestive.
The chocolate digestive, yes. We had this discussion, didn't we? The chocolate digestive is the best biscuit because it might not be everyone's favourite, but it's nobody's least favourite. I've never met a person who doesn't like it, and that's the thing. And that matters for something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that nobody actively dislikes chocolate, like people dislike digestives, people dislike, maybe they don't like milk chocolate, so maybe they prefer the dark chocolate ones, or if they're feeling so inclined, they are white chocolate ones and like orange chocolate ones, but nobody dislikes chocolate digestives.
However, I'm going to say, like, to me at least, I would not put something in the top 5 for being, like, bland enough to not offend anyone.
Well,
that is not a positive to me.
It's not, it's bland, it's just universally good. And I think chocolate digestives deserve that because if you went out into a house when you had people around for a cup of tea and you offered them chocolate digestives, no one's going to say no.
But that's the thing is, like...
That counts for something.
It counts for something, but personally to me, if I was going to say, like, what's the top 5 video games of all time, I'm not thinking what's the most popular and least offensive video game. I'm thinking, like, what's top fucking tier?
Well, you think, what typifies a video game? If you just think in your head a biscuit right now, don't lie, you think of a chocolate digestive.
Only because it's, like, the chocolate digestive has reigned on too long, Carl, is what I'm saying.
Well, here's the thing as well. There are variations on it, and the chocolate digestive is good, but I think it has been improved. Yeah, but for example, the chocolate hobnob. Because the digestive is very... I guess first explain... Biscuits, cookies to Americans, like they have cookies and milk, and like I guess Americans they get cookies. So when we say biscuit, just think a cookie. Biscuit to Americans is very different. Mm-hmm. Like they're more like I don't even know what an American biscuit would be. They're like almost doughy. Yeah. So Americans thinking like you dip biscuits in your tea.
I don't think they're similar consistency, but they look like British scones.
Yeah. So their biscuits would be our scones. So when we say biscuit, think cookie. And when we say chocolate digestive, imagine a chocolate-covered cookie. It's not the exact same thing, but
no.
That's closest to the ballpark for like. So I've had this before of like biscuit, and they think they're things like scones. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing like when we say baked beans on toast. I think we had this in our group chat the other day. Americans don't get what baked beans on toast is because American baked beans. Actually, I have a tin of them over there. I got bought by my ex who was American. American baked beans are like smoky. They're a side, whereas ours are served in tomato sauce. So they're a lot less, not bland, but they're a lot less overpowering in their flavour profiles. They go with other things a lot better.
Or baked beans are like harissa beans, which are different from the beans they use traditionally, like when you think of like beans in America. And then all bread is a lot different because it's not as sweet.
And it's just one of those things of Americans assuming their lived experience is the default. So when we say biscuits, we don't mean biscuits as Americans will understand them. So just mentally replace it with the word cookie and you're in the same thing.
I mean, most people listening to this, if not everyone, has access to Google. You can Google what a chocolate digestive is.
Lucas, how many times have we had, though, Americans give us shit because we say something and they assume that them as Americans are the default experience? Like I said, I've had it. Like
we get it a lot in the comments.
They hear the words beans on toast, say, why the fuck would you eat that? It's like, well, maybe the beans that we're eating are different from the ones you have.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I will contest here, so I'll quickly list like what they have as the top 5 favorites, and then they have a list of like I think what they consider the top 13.
Yeah, so chocolate digestives is number 1 without.
But popularity wise, chocolate digestives, shortbread, chocolate fingers.
Fuck shortbread.
Oh, Carl, this is the thing, we're gonna get into it.
That's the thing. I hate shortbread.
I love shortbread.
You like it?
I love shortbread.
God, actually, my family's Scottish or half Scottish, and every year we get shortbread, and it's so dense.
And yeah, like I get that it is, but like I mean, I normally have like shortbread fingers that aren't the super duper chunky ones. I prefer the ones that are a little bit thinner.
My mum gets the ones that are like 3 inches thick, and you bite into it and you lose your teeth. And I will admit, like, good shortbread is nice, but I'd never pick it over a digestive.
Oh, I would. Oh, 100%. Good shortbread is way better than a chocolate digestive.
That's the thing, but good shortbread is so much harder to find. Whereas chocolate digestive, you can get even the most basic, Sainsbury's basic chocolate digestives still taste all right.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, if you buy, like, the dry, thick shortbread...
It's not good.
It's not great. So, like, that's the thing is, like, it gets dinged for like consistency
again, and consistency counts.
And the one thing I'm gonna flip on these articles and like these surveys and everything that you do when they include number 4, the Jaffa cake. It's in the name.
It's a cake.
It's a cake. It's not a fucking biscuit.
So anyone out there wondering, like, why would we be so anal about this? Like, the government itself actually has rules in place to stop this. So in the UK, there is tax. There's tax everywhere, but in the UK, tax is a very strange beast. And some things are not taxed or are taxed at lower rates than other things. So, for example, cakes are not taxed. Or they have less tax on them, whereas chocolate-covered biscuits are taxed at a higher rate because they account as not a staple, but a luxury item.
Right.
So a plain biscuit, if you sell plain biscuits, they are taxed at a lower rate than chocolate-covered biscuits, which is why, for the most part, chocolate-covered biscuits cost more. And for years, Jaffa cakes, they're generally sold alongside biscuits in the biscuit aisle, but they're taxed as cakes, which means that, like, they're not paying as much money as they perhaps should if they were biscuits. So the UK government took Jaffa cakes, and McVitie's, I think, is who makes them, to court to determine once and for all, is a Jaffa cake a cake or a biscuit? And you might think that sounds stupid, but keep in mind there are literally hundreds of millions of pounds worth of sales of these things every year, which is potentially tens of millions of pounds the government is missing out on in tax revenue. So it's like there is a very good reason to determine one way or the other. And what McVitie's did is they baked a giant Jaffa cake, like the size of a birthday cake, and they showed people, well, it's a cake. And the way you prove this, and this is something I learned, is that a cake, when it goes stale, goes hard. A biscuit, when it goes stale, goes soft. And they baked this giant Jaffa cake, and they let it go stale and show that it was rock hard, which means it is a cake.
Yeah.
And as a result, is not subject to the tax levy that chocolate-covered biscuits are. And I love that. That's so fun.
As another result, Carl, it can't be on the list of the best British biscuits.
It is legally not a biscuit.
It's disqualified.
It sounds stupid when you say it, but it's like legally, for tax reasons, it is not a biscuit. And the company themselves will tell you it is not a biscuit. It is often sold as one, and it can be eaten in the same vein as one, but it is very distinctly and legally not a biscuit.
So the law is with me when I say that it doesn't belong on this fucking list.
But I thought I would clarify, because when you say it, people say, why would the government waste money doing that? It's like, because certain things have to be taxed a certain way. It's like, for example, I'm recording on a Canon DSLR, like a prosumer DSLR. That can legally record for 29 minutes and 59 seconds. No longer. And that's because it's a camera and not a video camera. And video cameras can record for as long as they want, but they are taxed at a higher rate because they are seen as being just more for the industry side than they are for the consumer side. So as a result, they're taxed for industry purposes at a higher rate. So most prosumer grade DSLRs will record, but only for 29 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yeah, and for example,
that's 1 second before the legal limit, before they will become classified as a video camera and thus be subject to a higher tax levy for import reasons.
Yeah, and currently you're not recording, you are just your
streaming.
Your camera feed is being picked up by your PC.
Which is legally distinct from recording, which means that it can do that forever. Legally, legally this camera can do that, but if it was recording to a memory card within inside the camera, that would be taxed differently.
Because technically, you're just capturing the preview of what you would be recording.
Yes, and if I did record it, like you are now, you're recording it through third-party software, which is allowed within the realms of the law. And again, this all sounds stupid, but these are the regulations that stop companies from ripping you off. Like, for example, the example I like to use is sausage. Do you know there's a legal definition of what a sausage is? And again, this sounds stupid to what do you mean is the legal definition of what a sausage is? A sausage is a sausage. Well, no, the legal definition is that a sausage must contain a certain percentage of meat. And I think the law is it has to be 40% meat and 60% other stuff, which sounds bad. But even even a really high quality sausage will be around 80 to 90% meat, and then it'll be seasonings, breadcrumbs, that sort of thing to give it flavour. And if that limit wasn't in place, then they could legally sell you a sausage that was 10% meat. And there'd be no law against calling that a sausage. Same reason things like pies, pork pies, Cornish pasties, foods that are from specific locations, like champagne can only come from Champagne, for example.
Yeah.
And I always get pissed off when you hear people criticise this sort of thing. Well, that's stupid. It's well, people smarter than you have probably argued about it in court, so it's probably not. So just because you don't understand it doesn't mean other people don't.
Oh yeah, it's one of those weird things of like, it's there to kind of help everyone. Of like,
it's there to protect the consumer. Yeah,
there to help consumers, but also also the government, maybe depending on like how taxes goes and stuff like that. And it's very complicated. But all you need to know is that Jaffa cakes are not getting on the list.
Yeah, and the thing worth pointing out is that if these regulations weren't in place, for a fact that companies would do like the fact that there's a legal minimum. And companies still scrape alongside that shows that if it was lower, they'd make it lower. They'd put less meat in.
Exactly. Meat costs money, Carl.
Yeah. That's the thing. So that's why these things have to have legal definitions. Like, I think the justification is when the consumer buys something like a sausage, there is a reasonable expectation of what that will be. Mm-hmm. So, that's why they have these legal mandates in place. Like, if you sell something as a thing, it needs to, for the most part, roughly conform to the average consumer's expectations of what that thing would be. Same thing of like why I remember it was when Brexit was happening, a push against Brexit was, do you know there are like 30 different laws about what pillowcases look like? And it's like, well, yeah, because you want pillowcases to be the same size, right?
Like, imagine buying a pillowcase that didn't fit your pillow.
Exactly. And that's what, there's like mandates to what they're allowed to be made of because you sleep with your face next to them. And there was a couple of cases a few years ago when they were made of materials that like globbed and babies were choking to death in their sleep because there was no manufacturing limit on what the pillowcase could be made out of. So babies were choking to death in their sleep.
Yeah, and
that's it's a good thing that doesn't happen anymore, right? And the thing is, if there wasn't a regulation in place, companies would still make it with that stuff because it's cheaper.
Yeah, and there's like I think there's like been like a class action lawsuit or something of like these mattresses with like microplastics inside of them that like literally like giving people like breathing problems and shit.
Mm-hmm. And the only way to stop stuff like that from happening is just to tell companies they're not allowed to make it like that.
And I bet with chocolate biscuits, for example, or like cream-filled biscuits and stuff, there is probably similar regulations of like the legal minimum like cream you have to need for it to be like a sandwich biscuit, for example.
It's why we talked about American food being terrible earlier. America's making fun of British people having terrible food. Our laws are a hell of a lot more strict than theirs. And chocolate is a great example where, have you ever had American chocolate? You have like Hershey's. And it tastes like calendar chocolate. It's so chalky.
The only ones I've had that are like American chocolate are like American chocolate with other things in. So I haven't had just like plain American chocolate.
Like Reese's is fine because it's the peanut butter. And here's the thing. Good chocolate, will always melt at one very specific temperature. And do you know what that temperature is, Lucas?
I'm not aware of the actual temperature now.
Body temperature. So do you know when you put chocolate in your mouth and it just starts to melt instantly? Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why chocolate is so popular. But American companies don't like that because it means you can't ship it. You have to ship it in like refrigerated trucks, which cost money. You can't store it on shelves that are like in refrigerated locations, which cost money. So they put ingredients in there to make it not melt at room temperature or body temperature, which means the chocolate is chalkier. And in the UK, they have laws against doing that because when you say chocolate has to melt at body temperature because that's what chocolate is. And obviously, you legally can't sell chocolate that doesn't have the legal amount of chocolate in it.
Like, body temperature, not room temperature, because obviously we do store our chocolate on just shelves and stuff.
But if anyone's ever had they wonder why sometimes American Hershey's just you take a bite and it's really chalky in your mouth. It's because it's not melting because it's designed not to because it's cheaper to sell it like that. And there's no rules in America about selling it as chocolate, whereas over here you legally can't sell milk chocolate that doesn't have at least 65% cocoa powder content. Otherwise, it's not legally chocolate.
Right. Yeah.
I know this because our friend works for Nestle.
No, secrets, Carl. Big secrets.
Okay. He's one of the. He's a taste scientist for Nestle.
But Carl, you mentioned it earlier. We didn't get to number 5 on the list. This is
What's
favourites again.
Okay.
Number 5 was the chocolate hobnob.
Well, the chocolate hobnob should be better than the high. It should be high. I think the only reason chocolate hobnobs aren't higher is they're more expensive because it's a brand.
Right. I just had a bit of a technical issue there for 1 second. My recording just betraying me because I clicked on the wrong thing.
The snafu, yes.
Of course. But I'm getting up my notes here, and I guess we can agree then that for now, we're going to put a side note of like the chocolate hobnob probably should be on there.
The chocolate hobnob should be number one. The problem is it's a brand, and that brand is quite expensive. Like a packet of chocolate hobnobs is £1 or £2, unless you get it on like special.
I'll give you top 5, but I'm not sure I would agree that it needs to be number 1.
No, I think it'd be higher than the chocolate digestive, just in terms of like, mouthfeel. Because hobnobs, they don't melt. Because here's the thing. We're talking here specifically about dipping biscuits in tea, which like Americans might not get. Because like dipping stuff in hot drinks is not really a thing over there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another reason why like chocolate covered biscuits work so well, because the chocolate starts to melt a little bit, and then a little bit of the chocolate goes into your tea, and then your tea gets a little bit sweeter. Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever met someone who doesn't like putting biscuits in tea, and how fucking miserable they must be?
I can't say I've made a mental note of anyone that doesn't like to. I've had people before be like, I'm not in the mood to dunk a biscuit.
But have you ever seen someone who think you shouldn't dip anything in tea?
I don't think so, no, because that sounds like a sad life.
It's that fancy restaurant I worked in, because we had those coffee biscuits, those Lotus biscuits. Oh, I really like Lotus biscuits.
Lotus biscuits are making it onto the list,
especially if you dip them into coffee as well, because they are so good. I've got a little espresso machine, and I've got a packet of Lotus biscuits next to it, and sometimes an espresso with a Lotus biscuit, and you dip it in the Lotus biscuits. But I was doing that because obviously at the start of my shift, I want some sugar, I want some coffee, and dipping my Lotus. And some woman just went, if you did that in Italy, they'd they won't be happy. And it's like, well, it's good I'm not in Italy then, isn't it? It's like, it's the start of an 11-hour shift. I need some sugar and some caffeine. Fuck you. But I didn't say that. I said, sorry, madam. It's just the way that I like it.
Yeah, of course.
And I hate people who judge how other people like food.
Of course, yeah.
It's like the whole thing like steaks and stuff like that. It's like, just let people like what they like.
Don't yuck other people's yums, is how I've heard it stated. And I'm like, yeah. Just leave people to their own eating habits. Just, you do you.
I know we made fun of Americans, but I'm not making fun of them. I'm just saying, it's the hypocrisy of making fun of British food when their food is like... some American food could not legally be sold over here because it falls below the legally mandated limit of what that food's allowed to be.
It's the chicken in a can that always gets me.
Chlorinated chicken. Don't forget chlorinated chicken or like the 16 different dyes in their M&Ms that aren't allowed to be used over here, which is why American M&Ms and British M&Ms look different, because they legally can't use some of the colorings they use over here.
Yeah. And I'm going to put Lotus on there. We're not ranking them just yet, but I want to get like a short list for us.
The Lotus biscuit, I think, but only with coffee. It doesn't go well with tea, but it's such a good biscuit.
In terms of a Dunkin' biscuit, the flavour just matches up so much better and complements coffee so much better than
it's like it was built for it.
It does seem like it, yeah. And
like if I go to a cafe and I order a coffee and they don't give me like that little packet of 2 Lotus biscuits, like, what are you doing?
So I can't remember like what the generic like flavour of Lotus is, like it's the genericized version.
Like Biscoff.
Because they're all Lotus Biscoff biscuits, but then like for someone who might not know like what
just biscotti.
Because is it biscotti? Is that the flavour?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's like one of those of just... I can't remember the genericized term for them, but we'll go with the brand version and just say Lotus biscuits.
That's as well. I think that's impressive that the brand version is just... It's like hobnobs, isn't it? Like, there's no one else making them hobnobs.
Well, that's the thing. You go to like Lidl or Aldi over here, and
they've got their version,
you will find their version of them. And same with like Oreos. It's like Oreos is a type of biscuit, but the brand is more famous than the type of biscuit itself.
Yeah. And I know someone in chat's going to say, I know that Oreos are the rip-off of Hydrox. Hydrox were the original, Oreos ripped them off.
So, where do you rate Oreos then?
I don't like them.
Because they're not British biscuits.
Nope, I don't like this push of like Americanized stuff of like, they don't work, they work well in milk. Mm-hmm. They certainly work well being dipped in milk, but dipping in tea and coffee, just, they're not good for it. Because they crumble. They crumble way too much.
It's one of those of like, I'm sure Lotus is probably not British either, but I'm going...
Because I said it goes in coffee.
I'm going for the, like, if it's available to buy in Britain, like, what biscuits do we have access to?
Yeah,
we have access to Lotus biscuits, we have access to Oreos, like...
Oreos do not even deserve to be on that. Like, they don't work well into... They're too small as well. Like you try and dip an Oreo and it falls apart, and then like your fingers crunch it and it falls in.
I mean, don't get me wrong, dunkability is a big part of this for a British person, but like it's not the be all and end all. And I think like Oreos are still nice biscuits, and I do prefer like the double stuff because the cream that you use is like, again, it's that like it feels like they're meeting the bare minimum to call it a sandwich biscuit.
I say they are okay. I just don't think they work because they're too crumbly. I don't think I've ever opened a packet of Oreos and like the edges of all of them have just been like through the fucking ringer.
I don't know what the difference is, but like it feels as though they're, obviously Americans dunk them in the milk.
Yeah.
And it feels like they're built for that rather than like in tea or coffee. There's something about like, I guess it being like a heat. I think the heat of it makes it just dissipate more, yeah.
Yeah, and just they fall apart instantly, and there's nothing worse than you put one into a tea. I've tried it, obviously, put it into a tea and it disintegrates.
You've got to do like the poof, and just like the quick dunk.
So even rich tea biscuits, which are like the floppiest, most flaccid of all the bits, even they can survive one dip.
They get like a second or two in there before they start crumbling, yeah.
And I will say, have you ever tried chocolate-covered rich tea? They're really good.
Rich tea, I think, like...
They get shit on because they're really thin, but they're really nice.
But again, I think, like, just in terms of how bad they are for dunking, like, it does put them down there.
That's it, but the chocolate-covered ones, like, make up for that, where it's like the chocolate gives it a bit more, like, structural stability. Plus, as well, rich tea are really nice. They're really buttery. Mm-hmm. They've got all that really buttery taste. Like, whenever I think rich tea, they look like my forehead does right now. That sheen of, like, just oil. And I always think of my granddad's house as well when I get a rich tea.
But I get, like, I think just rich tea is a bit, in terms of like top 5, it's a bit too bland. It's a bit too basic.
It might be number 5 just because.
You want me to put it on the shortlist?
I think just on the shortlist because what about if your grandma comes around? Or like, an older person who doesn't like any of this newfangled chocolate nonsense?
You know what? No, I'm not having people
No.
like...
No, do you know what rich tea is? Rich tea is the margarita pizza.
Oh,
you've got to order one or have one in when you're having a pizza party. Just that one person who doesn't like adventure.
But it's true. What's the chocolate digestive then? Because isn't that the margarita pizza?
I'd say the chocolate digestive
is like the pepperoni.
No, it's the 4 cheese. It's the 4 cheese. So you're the people out there like, I don't like any of this other cheese.
And finally getting to this list though, Carl.
Okay, keep going. I love that we have these discussions. It's so pointless.
Yeah. The number 1 that they've listed is apparently the biscuit that made it to the moon. And do you know what that biscuit is?
I'm gonna get it. Can't be a crumbly one. If it's crumbly, it won't be able to make it to the moon, would it?
Semi-crumbly, I would argue. It gets a bit crumbly, but not too bad.
The biscuit that made it to the moon. Is it gonna be something like a Garibaldi?
No.
What was it then?
It is the bourbon biscuit.
I don't mind bourbon biscuits. I just think they're just
very one note.
They don't taste as nice as they look.
Yeah.
Because they look like they should taste so chocolatey, but they don't.
Because it's like chocolate on chocolate, there's no adventure in them.
Yeah.
It's just one note.
They look like they should taste better than they are.
Yes.
And I think that's like the thing, like when you see a bourbon biscuit, you're like, I bet that tastes really chocolatey. And you take a bite and you're like, it's all right.
And yeah, like, similar, the bourbon biscuit and the custard cream is like the chocolate and vanilla version of one another, and both of them to me kind of just fall in that boringness category of like.
Before you continue, I just looked up rich tea. And just a fact about rich tea biscuits: in 2011, Prince William chose a groom cake for his wedding reception made from 1,700 rich tea biscuits and 17 kilos of chocolate.
Oh dear!
As if he couldn't get any more fucking boring.
just thousands of rich tea fucking biscuits.
Yeah,
but like I think the varieties upon them are much more exciting for like, if you've ever had say for example like the is it like the crunch creams or whatever, where it's like the more gingery biscuits with the cream filling or something, and just
the sandwich biscuits. Yeah, there's a lot of variety there, and I say I'd rather have them on because Oreos just feel like them, but not as good. Because, like, I think the butteriness of the sandwich biscuits, because I think they are made of the same stuff as rich tea biscuits. And I think the last time we had this conversation, I said there's the secret top tier one that no one ever talks about, and it's Lion's orange sandwich biscuits.
Yes, yeah.
Which are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Not chocolate orange, just orange. Wait, it's just orange creme.
Yeah. Like the orange cream.
Yeah, because Oreo's like there's two dry. The biscuit part of the Oreo is the worst part. You're only eating it for the filling, whereas I think like sandwich biscuits, because they're made like that really nice, like buttery biscuit, like the rich tea base with the cream on top. They work much better for dunking because like then the butter and the fat from the biscuit goes into your tea, and you get that lovely like oil slick style sheen on top of your tea.
Yeah, and they really, really do hold up for dunking purposes.
They do,
and that like, I mean, we have to come to a decision of like which sandwich biscuit we would put on.
I'd say just the regular custard cream, but it's again.
See, again, like I don't like this traditional mood you're going for, Carl. I would say like maybe like the crunch cream where it's like the ginger biscuits.
Let's have a look at crunch cream. Because the one I'm thinking
I believe it's ginger biscuits.
Actually, okay, they are pretty fucking top tier.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think ginger nuts. I don't like ginger nuts.
See, I really like ginger nuts, but I wouldn't argue that ginger nuts are like top tier. They are for me, but like I understand that they're a bit more of a acquired taste.
Yeah, but Fox's crunch cream and things like I'm looking at that is so much more like stuffed than an Oreo.
Yeah, a lot more.
That's how it's fucking done.
And yeah, okay. I'm getting myself because I just clicked on like the Crunch Cream website from like Fox's Biscuits, and it's the chocolate orange ones and the ginger ones. This is a dangerous game, so I'm just going to put Crunch Creams if you're okay to agree with that.
Of all the sandwich biscuits, I feel like it's adventurous enough where like, it'll satisfy the more discerning palate, but no one's going to complain because ginger nuts are already such a staple.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're not quite ginger nuts, but they're very similar.
Yeah, it's one where like your mum or dad pick it up and go, "Ooh, just one." It's one of those, isn't it? And I think that means it can never be number one. So a good biscuit would always be you always got to have at least two. Because a good biscuit is that you have the first one, and then you go, "Oh, it's one more," and that's how you know it's a good one. When people just go, "Just one more," and that's what you want. It's one of those ones where you end up with one left on the plate, and no one wants to take it because they're too polite.
Yeah. And I was going down here, and it's like number 2 on their list is the original digestive biscuit, and then number 3 is just the traditional hobnob.
Yeah. Like, the traditional digestive is pointless. Its existence is completely just made obsolete by the existence of the chocolate-covered digestive.
And then, as well, I would argue that both digestives are, like, again, as we said earlier, they are just lesser versions of the hobnobs.
It reminds me a little bit of the idea of, what's that? The Bakewell tart. Where the Bakewell tart, people, Americans don't know, it is an almond and jam tart with ice cream on top, and then a little Glacier cherry in the middle.
Well, that's the Mr. Kipling version. So, yeah.
And that is not traditionally how they're made. That is how the company Mr. Kipling's make them. A traditional Bakewell tart is just an almond and jam tart with no toppings on top. And if you go to Bakewell, they will have signs in every fucking window telling you a traditional Bakewell tart doesn't have icing on it. It doesn't have cherries. And you look at it and it looks so sad.
It's like, yeah, they took a Bakewell tart and made it better. What are you mad about?
It's like the cheeseburger, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like saying, like, oh, a real burger doesn't have cheese on it. And goes, well, it fucking should. It tastes way better. So, thank you for the Bakewell tart. We'll take it from here.
Yeah, the digestive biscuit basically just got improved upon with the hobnob, and it's for anyone wondering, it's like a flapjack meets a digestive biscuit.
Yeah, it is like the gas street light of the biscuit world of like, okay, it served a purpose until we had something better. Now we can get rid of it, we can phase it out.
Yeah, and you know, one of the weird things is people get like weird about this because it's like McVitie, it says here, introduced the hobnob in 1985, whereas like a lot of people, you know, our age, because like again, they must have just hit the gauge running with the hobnob biscuit.
Yeah.
Like, even when I was young, it was considered like a staple biscuit. But it's not an old traditional biscuit. It's like quite relatively new.
Now, the digestive's good. It's just not as good as chocolate digestives.
Mm-hmm.
Just think, a biscuit for me is a treat, and if it's a treat, you might as well have fucking chocolate on it. Like a biscuit with that doesn't have like some extra. If it's the plain ass biscuit, what's the point? If I'm having like an extra 150 calories from eating this thing, put some chocolate on it.
So yeah, we've already got chocolate hobnob in the shortlist, and
Damn right.
then number 4 they've got here is one that's the pronunciation is up in the air. And do you know which one that is, Carl?
Is that the Garibaldi?
No.
Squash fly biscuits?
No.
Nice
the pronunciation.
Biscuit?
Yeah, the Nice biscuits, which are named after the city in France, which is Nice. But people see the word nice written on a biscuit and they're like, nice biscuits.
They're colloquially known as the nice biscuits, yes. And people they get arsey about it. And it's like, well, don't you know it's a place in France called Nice? No, I grew up on a fucking council estate. That's the thing. That's what gets me. Like, don't you know it's a place in France? It's like, no.
And the nice biscuits about that? They're nice. They're not great.
That's the thing as well. I made this joke last time off. I don't like them on the fact that they say nice on there and they're not that nice.
They're fine.
They're fine. But I will say, I keep mentioning Garibaldi biscuits. I really like Garibaldi biscuits.
I fucking hate Garibaldi biscuits.
That's the thing, people either love them or hate them because they've got raisins in them. And I know like raisin bran cookies are like the joke of like, oh, raisins, not chocolate chips. It's
yeah,
like,
dead grapes.
I like raisins.
Don't want dead grapes in my biscuit cup.
But I like raisins, and I think Garibaldi biscuits, especially when because they're rock hard as well. But then the raisins, when you put them in tea, soak up a little bit of the tea, and they go a bit soft.
No, not a fan at all.
And for that reason, they can't be in the top 5 because
they can't be at all.
Too contentious.
As much as I'm saying, let's not go for the safe picks. I'm not going that far out and controversial. It's like you can't. I hate them. If half of this podcast says they hate them, they can't go in the top.
I really do like though Garibaldi biscuits, especially the traditional ones that are really long.
Yeah, I know.
You got to snap a bit off because it's that thing about you put one on the table and then you snap bits off, and it's like a communal thing.
The communal biscuit died when COVID happened, Carl. Let's get rid. Let's kill off the Garibaldi. And one that I really like here, the Viennese whirl.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, is because that's shortbread, right? It's shortbread with cream in it.
It's shortbread, but I don't think the whirls are the ones with creams in, right? I think they're just the biscuit.
Mm-hmm.
Just a soft pastry of shortbread wrapped in a swirling shape.
Okay, and I will say, you know what? The Viennese whirl is the chocolate digestive to the digestive of shortbread. I don't like shortbread, but a Viennese whirl, I can be tempted to have a Viennese whirl.
They're just a bit lighter.
Yeah, that's the. I don't know what it is about. I think it's the shape because it's not like a fucking house brick.
Yeah.
So when my mum gets shortbread, right, she gets it delivered from Scotland every year for Christmas, and she puts it on the table, and there's weight to it. There's density to it, and it's like I don't want to have that going through my colon. A
traditional block of Scottish shortbread fingers, they could fucking knock you out.
They can, yeah.
But the Viennese whirl, I'm gonna. Should we just put them again, shortlist wise?
I'll say if we need a plain biscuit. If you're not going to allow, I think the plain biscuit should go on, and malted milks. If there's square.
I know what malted milk is. I just don't think they're impressive enough to make a top 5.
Really? Okay. I guess the Lotus biscuit would be the plain one, I suppose.
Yeah, Lotus biscuit is pretty plain. It's just the flavour alone.
Just a little bit of cinnamon, isn't it?
Yeah, and jazzing it up a little bit, we have the Jammy Dodger.
Thing is, though, I hate Jammy Dodgers, but I will concede that a lot of people like Jammy Dodgers.
A lot of people do, but I think the jam cream is just a better version.
Yeah, and that's
it's just the Jammy Dodger with cream in it. It's why
the
would
Jammy
you not
Dodgers,
go far?
I don't like them, but there are enough versions of a Jammy Dodger. There's a marmalade one that I really like because I like citrus flavouring. The marmalade Jammy Dodger is fucking top tier, and it's only they sell it around. I remember one year for Halloween they did lime marmalade, which was really nice. It had a really nice tartness to it. That was really nice.
I want to show you a picture, Carl, because for shortbread biscuits, he's got the ultimate shortbread, 8 kilo of shortbread. This is the picture they use for shortbread biscuits, and I think these kind of biscuits would do a much better job of justifying it.
Oh, it's nice and thin, rolled real thin, like a biscuit,
like a traditional biscuit, like a nice thin cookie shape.
Yeah,
shortbread biscuit rather than the really thick, stodgy fingers of them. And it's that's where I think shortbread is nicer. I agree that again, I don't think we can make them top tier because of the inconsistency and how much of it is just these big dry blocks of shortbread a lot of the time. It's Viennese Will seems like a better, more consistent version for us.
Yeah, the one thing I'm going to put forward though, if you're going to get real specific, do you know those I've got the picture here, right? Do you know when you go to Tesco and you got the bakery section and there are those little paper bags that have 4 cookies in them? Those are good. Do you know those I'm going to send you a picture. You'll know what I mean by this. This is not the brand. This is not the kind I mean.
I know that that's getting very specific of the bag of biscuits from Tesco's in a bag. But you know what
they'd make because?
But that's just cookies, right?
But they're cookies that are they're not quite cooked, so they're still soft in the middle. So they taste a little bit like cookie dough.
That's just a soft cookie.
Yeah, I really don't like cookies being raw, but those are really good.
They are, and I really like softer cookies. Yeah, they're very satisfying, and when you go to break them, and they have that little bit of squidge in them.
Yeah, it's
and
when
they don't snap; they just give.
Yeah,
and then tear, and it's satisfying.
And they always have really good, big chunky chocolate chips in there. They're really nice, big. Whenever I see them on special, I always get them, and I have one. I break it in half in the morning and have one with my morning coffee. And then after I've done my workout, I have the next bit and I'm like, that's it. And, I deserve that.
We're getting along in the tooth here, so I'm not going to go through all 13, but one, special mention they have here is the Pink Panther wafer bars. And again, wouldn't consider a wafer bar as a biscuit. It's a nice snack that you could have with a cup of tea. But
they're a thing you give to kids to shut them up.
It's and me. You could give them to me and I'll shut up. But they're a wafer bar. They're not a biscuit.
Oh my God. I was just looking at the Tesco ones and they've got the branded ones that have Jaffa cakes in them.
Oh.
They've got the Jaffa cake, Jaffa orange and the Galaxy ones. And it's the Galaxy ones are so good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and that's the thing is
Bounty ones with coconut in.
It's difficult because how specific do you get of do we get as specific as Jaffa cake soft cookies from Tesco? I don't think we can get that defined.
I think maybe for another one of these we should do chocolate bars. Because chocolate bars are a very... I know. Do you know when you go to the shop and it's do you want a chocolate bar? And someone says, yeah, I want this one. And I feel like people get way more aggressively defensive over the chocolate bars they like.
And that thing is, I only wanted to bring this back up because literally earlier today I was come into this and just before we recorded, we've got a nice box of those chocolate Fox's biscuits on the table, and I just went and picked one and was I want to talk about biscuits again. I want to rank them.
They're really good, yeah.
And you know what? I would argue here that from the ones we've gone through,
I have thought one we've not mentioned. So I was just looking.
Yeah.
The gingerbread man. Gingerbread.
Not ginger biscuits, gingerbread man.
Yeah. Do you consider gingerbread to be a good... Do you think it deserves to stand alongside other biscuits? Jaffa cakes aren't allowed in, but a gingerbread man allowed in. Because when I was a little kid...
Well, it's a biscuit.
Getting a gingerbread man and dipping him in my tea. You dip his leg in, it's oh no, he lost his leg.
It is a biscuit.
Yeah, man.
I would not disqualify a gingerbread man.
Good, I love gingerbread man.
So, gingerbread men, that's thing, I didn't think of gingerbread men because they're obviously a seasonal thing normally.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, a gingerbread man, I've watched Shrek. That man snaps. He's got that snap to him. He goes soft when he's stale.
I'll still never forget, though, when, shops just started calling them gingerbread people. Mm-hmm. It's that thing of it's just calling gingerbread people because I think just be more inclusive, and right wingers lost their mind, and it's do you want to put a dick on there or something? Would it make you happy if you put dicks on them?
Oh God, it's so funny when you come across stories like that, and it's Okay, yeah, where the snowflakes got it.
Yeah,
sure.
that's the thing. Like, no one actually gives a shit.
Yeah.
It's like the thing. It's like Happy Holidays, isn't it? It's like I've never met anyone who's actually bothered by that, except weirdos. Like, it's Christmas time. He goes, well, what about if they celebrate Hanukkah?
Like, yeah, they're not offended by the words. They're offended by the idea that, like,
they're not the only ones being included.
Yeah, we're not as important anymore, and it's like
that's all it comes down to. Is it's not that they don't care about the change; they just care that they're not the most important anymore.
Mm-hmm. And so far on our shortlist, we've got chocolate hobnob, Lotus biscuits, rich tea, crunch creams, Viennese whirl. I just put soft cookies as like the genericized version of your Tesco bag.
Yeah,
and then gingerbread men.
If we want to kick one of them out, we can only have one sandwich wafer. So I think we're gonna have to kick out the I'd say the crunch cream, because that way
we've only got one sandwich cookie.
Oh,
like
it's the
sandwich
Viennese
biscuit. The Viennese whirl is like there's the Viennese sandwich biscuit version.
The Viennese whirl on its own.
The Viennese whirl is like just the shortbread pastry. Like
I say, if we're gonna have that, then you can kick out the rich tea, because that's just the representative of the plain biscuit.
I'll accept that. And I was gonna say the like maybe the top one in terms of like A, how much we agreed upon it, and B, how much I like the flavour is maybe the Lotus biscuit.
I think Lotus biscuit's one of those ones where, and as well, because they're small enough where I don't have much sugar anymore. A Lotus biscuit is just small, so I think they're like 60 calories.
Right.
Like, I can justify having a Lotus biscuit and a coffee in the morning and not feel bad about it. If I get like 3-4 chocolate digestives, that's like 400 calories.
Yeah.
That's really hard to justify. But like, a couple of Lotus biscuits is like 100 calories. It's like, okay.
And again, there's a reason why they package them as those little like 2 double biscuit servings. Like, I know a lot of biscuits do that, but like it just makes so much sense with the Lotus. So, like, just 2 little biscuits to dunk in your coffee, have a like little snack.
It feels like as well, it's the one where they're not lying about how much you should have. Do you know when you see like you get like a cake and it says serve 16, like fuck off it does. Lotus biscuits have never lied to us about how many it serves. It's like you have 2. And you have 2, and you're like, that was a nice amount. You don't feel like you're being greedy when you have Lotus biscuits, when you have 2. But if I have like a second like Viennese whirl or a second like big cookie, I do feel a bit greedy.
Yeah, and like, but the thing is with Lotus biscuits is like I've had one of those days before where like I've had the entire packet next to me, like the proper packet, and they are so Moorish that you just start like annihilating.
That's the problem as well. It's like they're not Moorish until you dip them in coffee, and there's just something about when they're dipped in coffee, and I think that deserves some credit for dipping biscuits. The fact they taste better when they're dipped.
And
plain, I can give or take. But dipped in my coffee, it's like fucking unstoppable.
They're still quite Moorish to me, but yeah, in coffee, holy crap, they are like top tier. And again, I'm not gonna label this list the top 5 British biscuits. I'll label it top 5 biscuits that you can get in Britain.
Matt Lucas, there's a restaurant somewhere that does a 1 kilo Biscoff biscuit. Can you imagine ordering that? Do you know the thing as well about Biscoffs? They've never felt the need to mix it up. They're so confident. Like, you can obviously get chocolate covered ones, but you go to a shop, it's just them. They don't. They're confident in their branding and their flavour. It's like, we know you like this. We don't need to add no bells, no whistles, just the flavour you know and love.
And yeah, it really is. And it's also just the flavour is so nice that, like, you can go and make like the Lotus Biscoff cheesecake, like, incredible. Just buying the Lotus spread as well. Like, the Lotus Biscoff spread is like crack.
I've looked at this, and there doesn't appear to be any other kinds of, like, they do like different shapes.
Like, yeah, it's just Lotus biscuits. They're just that good.
The closest I've got is like there's one like they did as a one-off. They do like the Biscoff cream, which seems to be it doesn't seem to be sold much anymore. But for the most part, it's just Biscoff. I think that says something.
Yeah.
The fact they're so confident, they don't need to fucking change it. It's like Reese's Pieces in America. They never had to fucking they change the shape. They'll change like, the serving size or like, the way it's delivered, but ultimately, flavour stays exactly the same.
Are you thinking of the peanut butter cups, do you mean?
Yeah. They'll change like the way it's delivered.
Pieces are like the little like M&M Skittles kind of thing, like the shell ones.
But they never felt the need to change the flavour.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you can get like little or large ones, but they're just peanut butter cups. Like,
And I think, you know what, for that reason, that deserves some acknowledgement.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to get some now. You've really got. I want to get some. So now I've got like a packet of them up there. I'm like, damn it, sponsor us, Lotus.
Yeah, fucking hell. That's one I'll take. So realistically, we've got to get rid of one of the other 5s and leave it as like an honourable mention. So which one would we get rid of?
Do you say bourbon's in there?
No, so we've got chocolate hobnob, crunch creams, Viennese whirls, soft cookies, and gingerbread men.
I'd say make gingerbread men the honourable mention.
The honourable mention.
Because like they are seasonal, but just there's that thing of like just get like near Christmas time when you get like the little gingerbread men, and it's like you don't. But it's not so much the flavour of the thing you're eating; it's the fact that it makes me think of Christmas.
Mm-hmm. And like I like the flavour of them. I like ginger biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
And like ginger biscuits plus a little bit of icing or whatever.
Yeah, it's that thing about I guess that makes sense.
Good as well. Like just a little bit of royal icing on a gingerbread man. Yeah. Like you don't need all the extra sweets and stuff. Just a bit of royal icing is great.
Yeah, I don't like gingerbread. I don't like gingerbread that much, but the fact that I have it once a year. And that's another thing, like about the British food thing of our food's so simple. It's like with good ingredients, food can be simple. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said like the just bread and butter. It sounds bad until you have really good bread and really good butter. Like a really good, just nice bit of gingerbread. Like I said, really nice bit of shortbread. But it means you've got to spend the money. You got to spend the money to get the good stuff. And it's only only Christmas time I have the good stuff.
Yeah. And in terms of like just agreeability, then I think like the other one that we both just like instantly agreed upon is probably just the chocolate hobnob. Because like. It's better than a digestive. It holds up better for dunking. It's got more flavour because it's got like that oatiness. Mm-hmm. And also, it is just agreeable. Like, most people are going to enjoy a chocolate hobnob.
And there's enough variations on the chocolate hobnob. Like they've got milk chocolate, dark chocolate, white chocolate. They kind of have like a little bit of caramel in there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's like nice, easy top 1 and 2. And then left, we've got the crunch creams, the Viennese whirl, and the soft cookies.
I'd say the soft cookie should probably go last.
I was thinking that as well.
Because it's number 5, treat.
Soft cookie, and then maybe like the Viennese whirl goes number 4 just for like being a bit more of a plain biscuit.
Yeah, but it's still one of those things like they're still in the treat category. There's like chocolate hobnob and Lotus biscuits. They're just like, you can have a packet of those in your house. Oh, that's the kind of thing you go to someone's house, you have a packet, and like, no one's going to have shortbread in year round, really.
Not really, no, but like, yeah, a nice little treat every now and then, because, yeah, shortbread, and especially like Viennese whirls, because they're like pastry-ish shortbread, like, they're very buttery and probably very calorific because of that.
Very dense.
Yeah. And I'm quite happy with that as a list, to be honest.
I'm happy with that, yeah.
Best biscuits that we can acquire in Britain.
Made in Germany. Just things like you think, like Lotus, it's Italian, they're German. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
It's a German brand.
I figured that they were like German or Dutch or something like that.
Yeah, Germans making better Italian food than the Italians and selling it to British people.
And better British biscuits than British biscuits.
That's my heart will always go out to the chocolate digestive, but you gave a stalwart defense of its reason not to be included. Of like, just because it's consistent doesn't mean it gives you to be involved. Consistent doesn't mean the best.
Exactly, yeah. Like, just because a lot of people like it, a lot of people really like fucking rich tea biscuits, and it's like, they're just boring.
Do you know, I think the people who like rich tea biscuits are just old people who just don't like change. It's like when old people like still refer to Snickers bars as marathon, and it's not been marathon for 25 years. It's like, get over it.
Oh god. So yeah, we've got Lotus Biscoff number 1, chocolate hobnob number 2, number 3 crunch creams, number 4 the Viennese whirl, and number 5 just the generic soft cookies.
Yeah.
And obviously cookies to us means like very literally like when you think of like a chocolate chip cookie, like those kind of cookies.
If I was going to be more specific, it'd be the ones that are the chocolate. It's the white chocolate and caramel ones. That have the little chunks of caramel in there.
I'm going to put big soft cookies as well, because like just to be more specific of like, you know, the bigger, I think like big flat cookies are like the nicer ones.
You know the exact ones I mean as well, don't you?
I do.
The ones you get from Tesco, and then you break, like you said, you break them and they don't snap, they go.
Yeah. Like, you can almost, like, tear them a little bit.
It's the ones that you have, like, you don't have it on your girlfriend and you split it in half, and then, like, you've got to be a good boyfriend and give him the bigger half, but you don't want to give him the bigger half.
It's, like, on here, the list of one of the, like, top favourite biscuits of the UK is, like, the Maryland cookie.
Oh, and it's like, they
suck so much. They are, like...
gravel.
Yeah, they are just horrible texture, dry, they're too hard... They're just not satisfying cookies to eat whatsoever. I think they're popular because they're fucking cheap.
And as well, because they're American, they're fancy. Like, Maryland cookies suck balls.
Yeah, they're awful. And, yeah, sorry to, like, you know, the Jammy Dodger lovers, the
as I said,
chocolate finger lovers, the Jaffa Cake lovers, you can fuck off, it's a cake.
Yeah, on a different day, Jammy Dodger could have replaced the Crunch Cream.
But I think I would have argued for the jam and cream rather than the Jammy Dodger.
But there's another day we could have argued for that one. So I said the Jammy Dodger has a lot of variability. Like when you say Jammy Dodger, like, there's chocolate Jammy Dodgers as well, and they're good. Like chocolate Jammy Dodgers are, they've got chocolate in the middle instead, and they're really good.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you know, if you don't agree with our rankings, then let us know in the comments what your favourite biscuits are that you can buy in Britain. But like, this is our list. And as you say, on a different day, it'd probably be a different list.
If I was a bit hungrier, it might be a bit different.
But Lotus would be in there.
You also caught me in bulking season. You caught me in like winter when, like, you know, my guard's a bit down in regards to unhealthier foods.
Oh dear, and sorry that this one has gone on so long. I apologise, Carl, for keeping you, but we needed to make some arguments for some of our favourites, and you know, there's probably like 20 biscuits we forgot about because there's that many different variations you can buy.
I'm just gutted like Gary Baldy never gets a look in. It's not one of those ones that I mentioned.
Gary Baldy can go fuck himself.
What about fig rolls then?
No,
you don't like fig rolls?
No,
I like fig rolls. I think as well because my neighbour used to have them. Like my neighbour was just this old man.
Oh,
and he always used to have Gary Baldy and fig rolls in, and he used to look after us after school. So we'd go to his house and he'd make us a cup of tea before my parents got home.
Just like raisins and dates and all that, those flavours. And
yeah, he was old. No. He needed help.
Well, I'm not saying don't help like nice old people.
You need the fibre, didn't you? Yeah, you need the fibre. You need that prunes to go right through.
True. But yes, as I say, if you disagree with us, which 90% of people are going to, then come at us in the comments. But thank you all for listening.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.